It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview Bob Kesling, Tennesse Volunteers Director of Broadcast. How are you doing today?
Brandon, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. Can you talk about your experience being the Director of Broadcasting?
Well, it's been challenging this year since about March, trying to get things figured out. This year has been really different than anything else. First of all, the basketball season just came to a grinding halt right before Tennessee was supposed to play over in Nashville. And then I don't think anybody anticipated that all the sports would basically go away for a while. So now we finally get to crank things up a week from Saturday. We're still trying to figure out how our booth's going to be set up, how many people they're going to let us have in the booth. We can't travel with the team, so we got to make our own way. So there are going to be a lot of things different. But I think, Brandon, the biggest thing is we're getting to play. And, you know, I think like a lot of us, we all want to get back to normalcy. But to do that, we've got to do what the experts, so-called experts, are telling us to do. So, and I think all of us are pretty much willing to do anything we have to be able to call games and be able to play next Saturday. So we're kind of looking forward to it.
How will it feel when you get back on that field to call some plays for Tennessee?
Well, it'll be great. I mean, that's the one thing about it, and I've always said this, because I had the privilege, of course, to play in high school, and I walked on the Tennessee football team and had a chance to play on the freshman team back in '72. And so I've always said that broadcasting is the next best thing to playing, because when you're playing, you've got that week of preparation. You got to do something on Monday, you got to do something on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to be ready to play in the next game. And it's kind of the same thing in broadcasting. You've got to have a checklist and a schedule. So when you enter a week, on Monday, I got to do this to make sure I'm ready. And on Tuesday, I've got to get this done. Wednesday, I got to talk to the coaches. Thursday, I got to go over my spot chart. I mean, all those things that you have to do to be ready, that gets you prepared. And then when you get to the stadium on Saturday, kind of like when you're playing, you think you're prepared, and now you're just ready to go out and play and have fun. And so the game days are fun. It's everything else leading up to it is the hard work and the preparation.
Can you talk about a day-to-day aspect on what it is like being in broadcasting?
Well, again, a lot of it depends on what you do. I've been privileged to kind of be in all 3 or 4 of the different aspects of broadcasting. I started out as a sports director at a local radio station, and then I got a chance to move up, and I went over to Channel 10 as the TV sports director. And through that, I got to start doing radio play-by-play for the Lady Vols and some other sports and baseball. And then I got a chance to do SEC football and basketball on television through Jefferson Pilot, which was before the SEC network came along. It was Jefferson Pilot doing the SEC games. And then 22 years ago, I got a chance to do the announcing for the University of Tennessee. So I've had a chance to do all different aspects worth of broadcasting, and each one is different. I mean, television news and television sports is much different than radio sports, because in radio, you just go out and you're just worried about getting a story and getting a soundbite. In television, you got to have video. So that requires more people. That requires editing. It's a lot more time consuming. When you're doing television play-by-play, that's different from radio, because of the fact that in television, you got to rely on producers and directors and your camera people. And in radio, you just kind of talk what you see. In television, you got to make sure that what you're talking about matches up with the pictures they have. And you can't really talk about something that they can't get a shot of. So you got to be wary of that. So they're all kind of little intricacies that are different. And so I've been blessed to do a lot of different aspects of broadcasting, and had a chance to do a bunch of things and get a taste of everything. So I've been really fortunate.
What are some of your favorite things to do when it comes to broadcasting Tennessee games?
Well, the funnest thing is just going to the stadium on game day. I always get the goosebumps when you walk in the stadium, and I came here in 72 to go to school and walk on the football team. I didn't know anybody in the state of Tennessee. I'm not even sure the coaches know who I was. I didn't know any of the players on the team. And so suddenly I enroll in school. I don't know any of the teachers. I don't know any of the students. I don't have anybody from my high school when I first started getting here. I knew I had one guy. I guess my roommate came down, but he didn't come down till in September. So I had the whole month of August and part of September where I was by myself and didn't know anybody. And then to think, years later that I would become the lead announcer on the Vol Network is kind of a remarkable and a neat story, I guess. But so it's been rewarding for me to be able to be able to get this position. But I think the thing is, in any job that you have in broadcasting, your whole mindset has to be, you got to get better the next day, because there's somebody right behind you that wants your job and they're working hard to get your job. So if you don't get up every single day and concentrate on getting better and doing things better and doing things more efficiently, you'll fall behind in this business. I learned that pretty early in my career. So one of my goals was always, when I was in local radio and local television, one of my goals every day was just outwork the other people if I could. Sometimes you got beat on a story, but if you gave an effort, you could put your head down on the pillow at night and not feel bad about it. The guy just was able to get a story, and you got to beat him the next time. But if you got beat on a story and you got beat because you didn't do the little extra, didn't make the one extra phone call, or maybe you should have gone to breakfast and you just decided to go to dinner instead. Those are the things that would eat you up, and those are the things you've got to overcome, and you've got to make sure that you don't get beat on a story or don't miss a story because of a lack of effort. So it's basically, in this business, it's a lot about just improving yourself every day, but trying to outwork your competitors. And that's, and same thing for guys that sell insurance, and same things to guys that are selling cars or shoes or whatever they're selling. Your main goal is to work your competition and be better than the other guy. And that's what you have to do in this business as well.
Can you talk about the experience on game day before Corona and then now during Corona?
Well, Neyland Stadium, one of the things that's great about it, it's one of the tremendous venues in college football to see a game and to do a game and to play in a game there. And so just the excitement. I mean, you can feel it when I live about 15 miles from campus, and you can kind of feel it building as you're driving in on game day. I get there real early. I'll probably get there 3.5 hours before the game. And just to kind of drive through campus, get into my parking spot outside the stadium, you can feel it when you get on campus. Just that buzz, that anticipation of what's going to happen. And it's special. Tennessee football in the state, it's a 365-day deal. I mean, there's no day offs for Tennessee football. I mean, every single day people want to know who the quarterback's going to be, who they're recruiting, how they're going to do against Alabama. I mean, those are daily questions that you get year-round here. So, it means a lot to the people in this state. And that's what also makes it special when you're broadcasting. I got to know Lindsey Nelson, who was, of course, the Hall of Fame broadcaster, and he started the Vol Network, and he came back to Tennessee, to Knoxville, after he retired from the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants, and he came back and lived up on Cherokee Bluff, and which is just overlooking the campus. But this is when I was working at the TV station, and he would come over to the station and do these little 3-minute vignettes that we would run on the newscast. It was about not sports. It was about things that were going on in the Knoxville community, like why Gay Street is named Gay Street, where General Mills is buried, the organ at the Tennessee Theater, the Regus Restaurant on 17th. I mean, he would tell you all these little stories about Knoxville. And so he was always very instrumental in terms of getting to bounce thing off Lindsey and getting to know things. And he always told me, he said, don't take a job unless there's passion involved, and not necessarily your passion, but the passion of the people that you're broadcasting to. If you're doing games and that nobody's listening, it's not very fun, and you probably won't do a very good job. So be selective and trying to find a job that you know that the people that are listening understand what you're doing and have a passion for the game, and they follow your team. And he said, he also told me, if you're doing that, and once in a while you don't get a bad letter from somebody correcting you on mistakes, then there's nobody listening. So he said, don't be afraid of critical comments, because you're going to get them no matter how good you are. And he said, take those letters and learn from them. And if there's, if they say something that's valid, then make the change in your broadcasting style. And so those are always words that really, I said, well, heck, you do the New York Mets. I said, you don't get any bad letters. He said, I'll bring you a basket full of them next week. So, it's one of those things that you're never going to please everybody, and you have to understand that. And you just go do the best job you can, and that's all you can do. And again, it comes back to, if you put in the effort to get prepared, if you do all the things, the checklist that you need to do before the game, you call the game the way you've been trained to call it, and you do the best job you can, then that's all you can do. And some people are going to like it, and some people might not like it. I think that Jim Nantz does a tremendous job, but there's some people out there that they don't like Jim Nantz, and they don't like Joe Buck, and a lot of people don't like anything. And so you have to understand that, and you have to take the criticism and then kind of filter through it. Are they complaining just to complain, or is there something legitimate about what they're saying? And so if there's something legitimate, you got to take it to heart and you thank them. Now, I don't answer anything that people don't sign their name to. If you don't have the guts to put your name on something and tell me how I can respond back to you, then I don't bother with those people. But, people that send you a letter, and, 90% of my letters are positive and they're nice, but then you get those 10% that you have to address. But I think that's healthy. I think that if people are sugarcoating everything, then you don't really have a grasp of reality. And sometimes you need to be jolted back to, now, wait a minute, maybe I am doing that, or I'm saying that phrase too much, or I'm not saying this enough, or, and it's one of those constant things, Brandon, in sportscasting. You can be a play-by-play guy on radio, and you might give the score and the time 400 times during a broadcast. And the first thing you get at the grocery store on Monday is that you never give the score and the time. So it's one of those things that you take. You never give it enough. And I've always told broadcasters, when in doubt, if you have nothing to say, give the score and the time. And that'll get you out a lot of messes. But so, you kind of, when you deal with the public, you never know what you're going to get. But sometimes you get some positive feedback, which is really needed.
How has coronavirus affected, with fans not being able to come to games? How has it affected your broadcasting? Do you have to amplify the fans like the NFL does?
No, we won't do that. We'll just, I think, from the whole aspect of this, Brandon, I think you got to remember that we're reporting. Granted that when you're doing your game, you hope you bring some level of entertainment to it. But our basic job, the people that are listening to Tennessee football broadcasts, basically what they want to know is who has the ball, what's the score, how's my team doing. They don't really care too much about actually who the broadcaster is. They care about how their team is doing. And so you have to understand that. The people are going to listen because they want to know how Tennessee is doing. So you take that into consideration. So we won't adjust anything, and I don't think there won't be as many people in the stands. The noise won't be as loud, and there'll be some changes that have to be made. But once they kick it off, then it's back to the old normal. You're a reporter, what's going on, give the score, who's got the ball, where is the ball, and all those type things.
That's wonderful. What other future plans do you have for Tennessee Volunteer Broadcasting?
That's a great question, and I don't know what the future holds, because how you transmit games is so much different than it was 20 years ago. People can walk around in the park and listen to games from the West Coast on their iPhone. Nobody ever envisioned that being possible 20 years ago. So how we'll be delivering the product in 10 years will probably something we can't even imagine right now. So it changes all the time. And one of the challenges in this business is to stay ahead of those changes and see where it's going and see how, I remember back when I was working on the Vol Network with John Ward and I was spotting for him, they had a thing called Team Line, and you could call in a 1-800 number and you paid $3 a minute or something, and you could listen to your team's broadcast from wherever you were in the country and the world. We thought that was revolutionary. How in the world are they pulling that off? And then now it's just you hit one button and it's on your phone, and you can listen to UCLA and Southern Cal, or then I don't want to listen to that, and then you flip it over and you got Ohio State and Michigan, or it's crazy, and the access now that you're having, and that there are people in labs all over the country right now trying to figure out easier ways and more ways that you can receive all of this. So I think it's another one of those robocalls. So I'm sorry I didn't turn my phone off, but you just I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Our main goal right now is a week from Saturday, getting the broadcast on the air and doing the South Carolina Tennessee game. And then we'll start thinking about the next week. And then you start thinking about how all this is going and how you distribute the broadcasts and those things. But it's a fascinating field to be in right now because we have no idea where it's going. I'll give you a quick example. When I started at the television station at Channel 10 back in 1980, for us to get highlights of the Tennessee Vanderbilt game in Nashville, we couldn't get them on the same day. Because if the game wasn't televised. So Channel 4 in Nashville had to put them on a Greyhound bus that night, and then they would come to Knoxville. We would get them the next day and would show next day highlights. And the same thing, if Tennessee was playing let's say a home basketball game against Alabama, then after the game was over, I would have to sit there and make dubs of the game, of our highlights, and then send them to Birmingham and Montgomery and all the stations in Alabama. And I would take them down and put them on a Greyhound bus, and they would ship them overnight. Now you get the highlights. There's a little box by your desk at the TV station. You stick the tape in, you push a satellite button, and bam, they're gone. Nobody would have envisioned that type of technology, but that's the way it is right now. I mean, things are moving so fast in this business that I think that's what's very exciting for young people like yourself to be involved in it, because you have no idea what kind of job openings and opportunities and what road they're going down the next couple of years. But I'll guarantee you this: in 10 years, this will all look a lot different than what we're doing today.
Can you talk about preparing for rivalry games, like, for example, Tennessee versus the Volunteers?
Well, I think if you start getting caught up in all of that, then you kind of lose focus on what your job is. John Ward, who I worked with I was his spotter for 15 years, and he was a great Tennessee broadcaster. He would come into our booth before every game and tell us, "I don't need you excited, I need you prepared," which meant, okay, we're playing Alabama or we're playing Florida, and it's a huge game. I don't want you so caught up in the game that you forget to do your job. And that's kind of like when you're a player. You can't get wrapped up so much in how big the game is and forget to do your job. So that's kind of how I treat all these games now. I mean, and I go back to your basic job is to be a reporter. And it doesn't matter if you're playing UAB or if you're playing Cal or if you're playing Alabama. You've got to treat the game the exact same way. And whether it's 10-7 in the fourth quarter or 55-3 in the fourth quarter, you still have a job to do to report what's going on at the game and tell the fans what's going on out there. So you can never lose that aspect that you're actually there to report what's going on in the game and not necessarily to be a cheerleader.
What advice would you give future broadcasters looking to get into the profession?
Find an open mic and get reps, get better. Don't copycat anybody. Most of the people that are hiring you want you. They don't want some person they've heard on ESPN or some person they've heard on CBS or whatever. They don't want the next Jim Nance. They don't want the next Kevin Harlan. They want you. They want you to be yourself. And that's the biggest bit of advice I would give. If you get on the air and you're working so hard to do quotes or sayings that you've heard somebody else say, then you're going to get off focus on what you need to do. So you need to develop your own style. But the biggest thing about it, you just need to be yourself. You're going to make mistakes when you're young and dumb, like we all do. But the only way you can get better is to do games. And now they say, well, I can't, the local radio station doesn't have an opening. Okay, that's fine. Take a tape recorder and go to a high school football game every Friday night and sit up in the stands and call the game into a tape recorder. We've all done that. And then play it back and start critiquing yourself. If you get a chance to go to school or get an internship at a TV station, do it. And if they want you to pull cables on Friday night for high school football, do it. If they want you to run the mail down to the post office, do it. Do whatever that they ask you to do, because that way that shows them that you're willing to do this. Half of the battle for young broadcasters is just showing up, being there. If the employer knows that he can count on you and you're going to be there, then that gives you a leg up on other people. You'd be shocked at how many people come through our doors and say, oh, I'll do anything. Well, we need you Friday night. Well, I can't do that. I got a sorority party Friday night. Can't be there. I'll be there the next Friday night. Well, that's not good enough. We need you. And it kind of shows your level of commitment if you're willing to drop stuff if you're putting your profession when you're young ahead of what you're doing. Brandon, I've always said there are great broadcasters that are out there selling pharmaceuticals and being accountants and being lawyers because they didn't have the patience to put in the time to develop their craft as a broadcaster. They get frustrated. Well, everybody graduates from college and they think they ought to be driving a BMW and having a great apartment and all those. Well, in this business, it doesn't work that way. And you have to pay your dues, and you've got to get experience, because they're not going to hire you just because of a resume. They're going to hire you because they think that on day one, they can bring you in and you can do a job, that they don't have to train you. They don't have to show you how to edit. They don't have to teach you how to interview people. They don't have to tell you you need to call this person. They want somebody that's going to hit the ground running and be able to do their job. So the key thing is whatever type of aspect of broadcasting you want to do, whether it's being a director or producer or being a camera guy or being a broadcaster, you just got to get in the stream and start swimming and get as many reps as you can, because the more reps you get, the better you're going to get. And then it takes you back to you start outworking other people. You try and give the employer a reason to hire you and a reason why they shouldn't hire you. And that's kind of the goal where you're trying to get to. Make yourself good enough at certain aspects that they're not going to find anybody better, and so they might as well hire you and give you a shot.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with Tennesse Broadcasting app?
Well, I'm not a social media guy. I don't. This is just my personal view of it. I don't see any benefits for me being on there. There's so much misinformation about most of us broadcasters on social media that I don't spend a lot of time. But you can go to youtubesports.com, or there's a Vol Network page that there'll be some information on that. But anyway, I've never been on social media, and I don't plan to be there.
Thank you again, Bob, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Director of Broadcasting.
Brandon, I appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Good luck to you too.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Bob, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.